Today we're exploring something darker than habit and deeper than obsession, the addiction to violence. It's the same chemical loop that powers drug abuse, gambling, and social media scrolling. But in stories like John Wick or Breaking Bad, that loop isn't about substances, it's about vengeance. The rush of pulling the trigger becomes the same as taking another hit. The question is, can revenge become a drug? We live in a dopamine economy. Every notification, every kill streak, every applause hit is designed to trigger the same brain chemical, dopamine. It's the molecule of anticipation, the what's next hormone. And like any good dealer, your brain learns to chase that next reward faster than it can enjoy the last one. Now imagine this not in the context of social media, but survival. You lose everything. Pain replaces peace. And suddenly, the only time you feel alive again is when you're fighting. That's the tragedy of the dopamine loop. It turns suffering into stimulation. In John Wick, grief mutates into motion. Each kill releases a microdose of meaning, a short hit of control in a world that's taken everything from him. Neuroscientists at the APA have shown that acts of aggression trigger dopamine spikes in the striatum, the same reward center activated by cocaine. So while Wick isn't snorting lines in a club, his vengeance acts on the exact same pathway. Every time he pulls the trigger, the chemical loop tightens. Every shot becomes reinforcement, pain, rage, relief, repeat. This is what researchers call thrill-seeking reinforcement. The rush of danger releases dopamine, but unlike joy or love, it doesn't stabilize the system, it destabilizes it. It trains your brain to associate violence with aliveness. That's why the cycle escalates. Like a junkie who needs more to feel the same, Wick and even Walter White descend deeper into chaos, not because they want to, but because their brains won't let them stop. Each act feels necessary, but neurologically, it's withdrawal relief. Walter White starts cooking meth to save his family, but soon, the meth isn't the addiction, power is. APA studies on behavioral escalation show that when a habit rewards both control and risk, the dopamine response compounds, turning morality into math. One more deal, one more body, one more high. In Wick's case, it's bullets. In Walter's, chemistry. Both are symptoms of the same disease, needing to act just to feel something again. You might be thinking, that's fiction. But neuroscience disagrees. The brain doesn't care if your addiction is heroin, Instagram, or heroism. The loop is the same. You act, you get a hit, you crash, you crave. And when dopamine becomes your compass, peace feels like withdrawal. That's why so many people can't slow down. Silence feels like death to a brain that's been conditioned for chaos. It's not that John Wick loves violence, it's that without it, he doesn't exist. A 2020 study from Stanford showed that the brain's reward prediction error system amplifies desire when outcomes are unpredictable, the very nature of combat and revenge. That means uncertainty itself becomes addictive. The danger of the next kill, the chance of dying, that's the slot machine effect. It's not the win that hooks you, it's the anticipation. So in every fight scene, Wick's not chasing closure, he's chasing chemistry. This is where vengeance crosses from purpose into pathology. In psychology, we call it learned pleasure association. At first, the violence serves a goal, justice, closure, redemption. But over time, the act becomes the reward. The brain rewires to seek out conflict because it's the only state that produces dopamine at all. That's why, by the end of Breaking Bad, Walter isn't saving his family, he's saving his empire. Addiction has replaced intention. So what does this mean for us, the viewers, the scrollers, the everyday addicts? We live in our own dopamine loops, likes, notifications, outrage again. Our culture trains us to crave conflict, to feel powerful when we react. Just like Wick and Walter, We confuse stimulation for significance. Every argument, every scroll, every violent thought gives a micro hit of aliveness. But when that becomes your only fuel, you burn yourself from the inside out. The antidote isn't quitting dopamine. You can't. It's about retraining the loop. Just as CBT uses exposure and reward replacement, you can redirect that chemistry toward growth instead of destruction. In Wick's world, peace is the hardest battle. In ours, it's presence. When you learn to sit in silence and let the craving pass, whether for violence, scrolling, or validation, your brain begins to upregulate dopamine receptors again, meaning you feel more from less. The real recovery isn't about stopping the fight. It's about changing what you fight for. In the final moments of John Wick, Chapter 4, he finally stops running. Not because the war ended, but because his brain did. He's free, not from violence, but from needing it. And that's what healing looks like. The moment when peace stops feeling like boredom and starts feeling like relief. So maybe the next time you feel the pull to check, to fight, to react, ask yourself, is this action freedom or is it my next fix? Because addiction doesn't always look like a needle or a pill. Sometimes it looks like a man in a suit, reloading. If you found this story powerful, subscribe for more cinematic psychology, where we break down how movies reveal the mind and how awareness can turn compulsion back into choice. Addiction to violence, dopamine loops in film and life, because sometimes the most dangerous drug is purpose.